So recently, there's been this drama and controversy around Hamza Ahmed, a self-improvement YouTuber. And before I get into this video, if you don't know who Hamza is, he's basically a self-improvement YouTuber who talks about reading, meditation, getting girls, and lifting weights. And I used to watch Hamza a couple of years ago, where he would basically give some would say, subpar advice. And what's happened recently is that he's had a falling out with one of his best mates, Sam. And Sam was his main editor, he would pretty much edit most of Hamza's videos. And he has basically made a response video, or basically a video explaining why he's fallen out of Hamza and why he's no longer working for him. And I think to this whole drama, to be honest, I kind of saw this coming. A lot of people thought, oh, this would never happen to Hamza, but I started to notice things about his behaviour. See, if you don't know who or what my channel, what I used to do with Dyslexic Improvement, is that basically I would talk about self-improvement onto my own channel, inspired by Hamza. Now, the channel didn't really do necessarily well, but I enjoyed making videos and people watching them and giving comments. And the problem with this as well is that most of the teenagers that I told people to do in a live stream once probably aren't going to be as successful as Hamza. And to do with the advice he gives, which is probably subpar, as most people have said, is that the advice he gives isn't really necessarily going to benefit you, because what worked for him doesn't work for you. And this is what happened to multiple self-improvement channels, where basically he would pretty much, or mostly of the channels, like with Firstman, Andrew Kirby, it goes on. And the problem I have with the self-improvement YouTubers, in my opinion, I think the majority of the self-help guru industry is basically a grift. And even to do with very famous books, such as one of the books, if I can remember, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that book, he has also been outed as kind of like a Nepo baby, if I can remember correctly. Or he's basically been exposed as not exactly being a millionaire very legitimately. Because a lot of these people claim, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, and you can too, just buy my course. And don't get me wrong, there are some benefits to doing this type of content. I do think that if I didn't watch Hamza, I don't think I would create my channel where I would have the opportunity to talk about what I wanted to talk about. And like I said, obviously self-improvement can be very beneficial, but I do think that with Sam's response, he made a point that all of the cold showers, reading, meditation didn't really help Sam. In fact, him just editing and being able to monetize and turn his skill into a course to sell to other people online has benefited a lot more better than just doing those main habits, or the good habits, so to speak. And when it comes down to Hamza's behaviour, as I said, when I had some foresight of when I used to watch him, when it comes down to Hamza, he's a very specific case of what goes wrong when you don't manage your business. And when it comes down to Sam and other things he would talk about, and including Hamza's narcissism or his ego, or whatever you think. If you don't think Hamza is a narcissist or a negotist, that's fine. But I think that he's made a lot of errors and mistakes, including with all the books that he would recommend to people, including like one of the books that he mentioned, John C. Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership. And I've noticed Hamza went from a level 1 leader to a level 5. And what's ended up happening now is gone all the way back to 0, because what he's done is that he's fired his main editor because he said some certain things that he didn't like. Now, if you're trying to run a business from your main channel, the last thing you want to do is fire your best editor, because if you look at his social blade, it's negatively impacted. He's went from 200k subscribers a few years ago to now 80,000, and he's losing it daily. He's now losing most of his followers. In fact, his followers are even turning on him, and he doesn't know how to handle this. And I think that I'll probably play devil's advocate here just for a second, that Hamza, what he should have done is probably handled, if he has a disgruntled ex-employee, as I've talked about with Herman's drama that happened, if you have someone who doesn't agree with your business or wants to go off and do his own thing, you just let them. Because if they fail, that's on them. If they do well, that's on you. You've helped him. And like what Sam said in one of his videos, where he would help Jack where he would basically build him up a really good channel, be able to tell him how to edit his videos, be able to basically give him direction and purpose. He's helped him. But in Sam's video, he's actually exposed Hamza as basically narcissistic in the sense that he's basically turned on Jack and he would basically, oh, I don't like how he's bigger than me or he's gotten bigger. Because if Hamza was actually a genuinely or authentic person as he claims, then he wouldn't have said horrible things behind his back off camera. And including how he responded to Sam, I think he responded in the worst way. He probably should have just apologized for his own behavior, but he didn't because, again, like I said, it's either his narcissism or his ego. And even if you can't make that point, he's made a lot of business errors because I think when it comes down to self-improvement, it's like a massive grift to do with all the other people, including someone like Andrew Kirby, who tried to scam me because I went on a call with him, booked it in, and he tried to extort money out of me. And this was at the time of the COVID lockdown, so I couldn't really afford to pay him. So I had to just decline his offer, but he was very pushy. And in fact, if you actually read one of the reviews, he's actually scammed. Someone said that he got scammed at £500 out of their money. This Irish girl or woman, I can't remember specifically, but yeah, a lot of these self-improvement gurus are basically just fake people just kind of looking to make a quick buck because grifting isn't really how you make a business. You know, if I had a business, let's say, I don't know, a butcher's, right? Obviously, I'm going to learn all the skills in a job, you know, how to manage your stock, how to basically sell your sausages or whatever, I don't know. My point is that you run the business within what you want to run it in. But the problem with all these self-improvement YouTubers, they didn't get rich at the start and gave the advice because you don't see, for example, Bill Gates make a channel. I mean, maybe he has, I'm not sure, or Jeff Bezos. And they explain how they got rich. I mean, to be fair, Amazon's owned by BlackRock mostly, and plus to do with Bill Gates. Yeah, there is some Nepo baby stuff going on because he's self-made millionaires, but self-made in quotation marks, are actually a lot of them are just Nepo babies. Like, for example, Elon Musk, his dad owned a emerald mine within South Africa. And a lot of these people do come from rich backgrounds anyway, including a lot of the women that also ran a lot of the, I guess, perfume things like all these other ones, maybe like Gucci, I can't remember specifically, but a lot of these people, like I said, are just Nepo babies, and a lot of the time that they say they're self-made actually means they just come from old money. But Hamza didn't do this, and a lot of these YouTubers, including Firstman, which Hamza even recommended on his channel, or is it Unfiltered, and basically talked about, oh, well, Chris is going to be a millionaire or something, when he's basically just renting things out. And I've also heard rumours of people talking about him online that his dad was like an ex-scammer in Spain, and his dad has obviously passed away. But when it comes down to him, you know, kicking off like a baby or people making response videos, he just doesn't like the criticism. And people are basically saw through his grave, and now he's deleted his entire channel because he knows that he's been outed. And if you go on his 1 million house, he's called it now, you know, he's changed his channel, and there's a few re-uploads here and there. Which, to be fair, I do think that he's repackaged the whole self-improvement, but just in a slightly different way. But it's very interesting of how Firstman wanted to brand himself. And he's ended up trying to basically just re-upload, and then he started begging money off of his audience, very gullible audience, tried to get money to pay for like a rent in villa or somewhere. And it's just like, you basically let a guy beg you money. It kind of reminds me of like the right-wing grifter verse within Twitter, where basically there's too many people online doing too many things, and eventually what ends up happening is that you have too many people doing too many things, and then they just fall apart. And like with Anthony Howard, where basically it was just kids, where basically he did political stuff, he would talk about certain things or immigration, and then eventually he just ends up deleting his website, as I now checked, where he was prioritise Britain. And this is the problem where in self-improvement and even in political spaces where people are basically just invites grifters. It invites people that just want to make a quick buck and then make the money and then fuck off with the money. But the problem with these bigger YouTubers or these bigger self-improvement people is that they gain an audience, manipulate them, and the problem is these stupid teenagers are giving them money. And I think there was a point where Jacked and Stacked made where he talked about all of these things that he did. He even watched Hamza. He even offered, I think, First Man to build his website because that's what he did as a job. And he even said that I think these people are just targeting lonely, desperate people who have probably parents have failed. And I feel like my parents haven't failed me. In fact, I'm very grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for like the house I live in and everything. Obviously, people say don't be humble, or as they would say. But I think that at the same time, when it comes down to these people, they are targeting people who parents probably have failed them. They probably haven't looked after them in the best way possible. They even could be on the spectrum like me because of my autism. And that's why I wanted to make a channel about my condition that I had and to do with my re-diagnoses. But when it comes down to these people, they know how to gain and manipulate an audience, but they end up having desperate teenagers give them money and basically pay their bills for them for like getting Instagram thoughts or even just paying for escorts. So these people aren't trad in a sense, they're just basically just using or even exploiting teenagers, as I said before, in order to pay for their degenerate behaviours. So I've noticed this trend with the self-improvement YouTubers. You can use them in a way, because most people would, but to be honest, you could probably just not do any of the stuff and it wouldn't make a difference. I don't think that if I did self-improvement 5 years ago, that I would get to where I am. But eventually, I feel like I've just developed within my life and just got on with it rather than actual just rely on these self improvement YouTubers, quote unquote, changing my life. Like Hamza would even big himself up and say, "Oh, I've basically changed young men's life. If you stop watching me, your life goes to shit." Which is complete bollocks because I've stopped watching Hamza, and if anything, I feel like I've made more progress without him. I feel like I've done better on my job, and though I am still technically still earning the same money, I feel like I moved into, obviously, like I said, I'm doing activism and all these other things. But I feel like because I moved away from those circles, I don't feel like I have to rely on them. So therefore, I feel a lot more independent in thought, rather than, as I said before, a lot of these people will probably go to Hamza because they're desperate. But I feel like, as Rehab Broom has recently said, with to do with his brotherhood, he's basically did the exact same things that he said he wouldn't do if he wasn't a guru or was a guru. I don't know. At the end of the day, what can we actually learn from, I guess, all this drama? Because Hamza was trying to basically project onto Sam, and you can even tell this, where basically he said, and even to do with Greg Duchetti, because Greg Duchetti's called him out on his HRT use, and he said that his testosterone levels are normal, yet he had to do all these surgeries and all these stupid things. And he's even deleted videos, which Greg Duchetti's even pointed out that because he's downloaded the video and basically played it back, he now can be exposed as a liar. But yeah, I think this proves that Hamza is a shitty best friend, a shitty businessman, and quite overall, a shitty YouTuber. My advice is to probably just stop watching Hamza. If you want my advice as well, don't watch him anymore. In fact, don't watch any of these self-improvement YouTubers because they're just after your money at the end of the day. They're not rich, grifting millionaires. Only the 1% of people are actually going to be in that area. I know people who are more successful than me, like, for example, one of my mum's friends. He's got like a nice car, he's got a nice house, but he's had horrible things happen to him as well. He's had throat cancer, he's a survivor, he's divorced. So even if you have all that money, it's not going to make you happy. But again, that isn't the type of video I wanted to make. But when it comes down to these people, their budgets that, that nice lavish lifestyle with Dubai, even though Dubai, I've seen, in my opinion, is a shithole, even with to do with Hamza, where he would even get blood clots, and to do with basically that Dubai is basically just running off slave labour. But anyway, I digress. But hopefully, what you can learn from the lessons, because again, I liked the drama because it did really show how horrible Hamza is behind the scenes. And sometimes, yeah, in business, you have to be a bit of a cunt. Mark Zuckerberg is, Elon Musk is, but the difference between them and Hamza is that they've got multi-million-dollar companies. Hamza's only got his channel. So because he's lost all of those subscribers, 80,000 over this year, he's basically just imploded. And eventually he's probably just going to have to go back to a security job that he probably did when he was probably very younger. But yeah, hopefully you guys can understand why you shouldn't really watch these types of people, including Hamza. And as well, what you can learn from the drama is that when you do have or meet shitty people, just analyze their behavior. And if you see any red flags, leave immediately, because I've had this where people have manipulated me in the past for financial gain, sponging off me to get 20 quid for a pack of fags, things like that. And these people do this, but they'll do it 10 times, in my opinion. But yeah, anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully we can all learn of why you shouldn't worship people and why you shouldn't worship these types of self-improvement YouTubers.